Hi, and welcome to the lecture for chapter number 5. Chapter number 5 is called Members and Their Roles, but we tentatively call it Stay in Your Lane because that's really what it's all about. And in an effort to not inundate you with information, we're going to jump right in. And this week, we're going to use one of my all-time favorite TV shows, The Walking Dead. If you've read chapter 5, you know that the chapter starts out by looking at a relatively simple yet kind of complex topic, and that's the least size group. Now, this theoretical principle says that the ideal group should contain as few members as possible, as long as all necessary perspectives and skills are represented. Now, The Walking Dead, if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. It's about a small group that's continuously expanding, and it's about their pursuit of a happy, healthy life away from zombies. That's really the gist of the show. And if you've watched the show, you know the show is filled with many, many different characters. Each of those characters brings a host of different traits, a host of different attitudes, a host of different life experiences, and together they either add value to the group or, in many cases, detract from the group's goal of attaining a safe, happy, healthy lifestyle. This is a ridiculous example, I recognize, but I think it's an important one because I think in all of our interactions around us in small groups, we always think that more is better. But when we look at small groups in action, be it The Walking Dead, as I have here, or even the ones that we've been a part of, we know that this actually isn't the case. With more people comes more scheduling complexity, comes more backlash, comes more opinions, comes more consensus that's going to be needed. So in small groups, as you manage and as you look closely at members and their roles, you want to have as few members as possible. Again, you want to make sure there are enough to really cover what you need to cover, make sure all perspectives, diverse skill sets, and backgrounds are represented, but not too much. Again, going back to those traits and attitude, let's define both of those. The textbook defines a trait as a relatively enduring, consistent pattern of behavior or other observable characteristic, whereas an attitude is a network of beliefs and values which are not directly measurable that a person holds toward an object, a person, or a concept. And these attitudes produce a tendency to react in specific ways towards that person, or concept. So a trait is something that's pretty present in our lives. It's something that's pretty consistent. It's a pattern of behavior. Some traits are unchangeable, like your eye color, but others can be modified. Our propensity to panic, our propensity to have anxiety, those are traits. Now, on the flip side, an attitude is really kind of a cluster of values and beliefs. It's a worldview. It's something you think about other people, objects, other concepts. It's more of a way of thinking. Now, both of these work together to influence the group process in a pretty mighty way. You come to the group process with traits that you bring to the table and with attitudes. But imagine how those intersect with other people's traits and attitudes. Think about your most controversial opinion. No, seriously, think about it right now. Like, what's the most controversial thing you believe? Pause. Think about it. Now, do you think that that controversial opinion is something that most people would have a problem with? In your small group, think about your group members. Do you think anybody in that group disagrees with you? I would imagine so. The point of this all is we all bring those things to the table. That's what makes groups so hard to work in. That's why people hate working in groups. It's not the actual task. It's great to have multiple people helping towards an end goal. It's the fact that we've got to manage our pursuit of that goal in tandem with managing the interpersonal nature of groups. So you say, all right, cool, but how do these really impact my performance in small groups? Well, we're going to outline some traits and behaviors that will directly influence the productivity of your group. These are specifically related to small group communication. Note that there are a host of other variables that extend beyond communication in small group contexts. We're going to focus on communicative ones. We're going to first look at communication apprehension. Now, probably most of you have taken a public speaking or speech course. You may have even taken one with me. And you've addressed your communication apprehension. You've taken something called the PRPSA, the Personal Report of Public Speaking Apprehension or something like that. And you've gotten a good handle on where you stand. But let's define communication apprehension. The textbook says it's anxiety. or fear of speaking in a variety of social situations. And if you've taken speech, you know that it could be a fear of speaking in front of people, but it could also be a fear of interpersonal communication, fear of talking with others, broadly speaking. We all have some degree of communication apprehension, all of us, even me, the speech teacher. But it's how we use or don't use that apprehension to our favor that influences if it's a good or a bad thing. So when we come to a group, nobody really wants to just let all their dirty laundry out on the table. Nobody just wants to talk, often because we're in groups with people that we don't know and it can be an uncomfortable environment. However, clamming up and exhibiting communication apprehension can not only hinder the group's final goal, the task-related goal, but it can also hinder the interpersonal processes as well. So beyond communication apprehension, if you do actually communicate, how should you communicate? That's an important consideration. In the textbook, although it doesn't list it quite in this type of way, it notes that there's a really fine line because you need to assert, but you need to not be aggressive. So the very worst thing you can do, and we rank it all the way here at the bottom of the spectrum, is to not be assertive. And non-assertive behavior or passiveness is what allows one's own rights and beliefs to be ignored or dominated. And you usually do this to avoid conflict. So it's when you just shut up for the good of the group. You think everybody's going to disagree with you, so you don't say anything at all. Why is that not good? Because it's interpersonally invalidating. Further, it stifles valuable ideas that could contribute growth to the group. Even if the group doesn't pick your idea, that can spawn somebody else's idea. It can spawn the creative process, the critical thinking process. So it's important to be assertive. But often there's a fine line there as well, because another negative behavior is where you do give your opinions, but they're passive-aggressive. And you may have heard of passive-aggressive behavior before, but can you really define it? Well, let's. The textbook calls passive-aggressive behavior that appears on the surface to be cooperative. Nice. But it subtly sabotages the group work, such as when members forget to carry out an assignment. This is when you're just careless. You're passive. You may not or may be vindictive, but you're just not doing everything you need to be doing. You're not actively engaging in the group. You're being passive. And you're doing so that aggressively harms the outcome of that group. If you move past this, it's pretty bad as well. It's aggressive. And aggressiveness is behavior designed to win or dominate that fails to respect the rights or beliefs of others. Now, this is ranked higher on the spectrum, better than worse, but that's not necessarily true, although I would argue that it's more important to be vocal than to clam up. Because if you can get your words out, even if they're inappropriate and maybe even aggressive, you can eventually tailor those. With the help of others, you can get them to where they need to be. But the most ideal communication behavior is assertiveness, and this is behavior that shows respect both for your own and other people's rights, in contrast to passive and aggressive behavior. So this says, hey, I've got opinions, I think that they're valid, and I think that you should think that they're valid as well. It doesn't seek to dominate, it doesn't seek to stifle anybody else, but it rewards you as well. It allows you to get your ideas out. There's several other concepts that factor in here as well, and we're going to blitz through those right now. One is cognitive complexity, and cognitive complexity is simply how well developed a group member's construct system for interpreting signals is. So, cognitively complex people, they're able to synthesize more information, they're able to think in more abstract and organized terms than cognitively simple individuals. Typically, these individuals are more highly educated, but that's not always the case. These are individuals that can think very, very deeply, analytically. They can analyze and really pull information out of a complex situation. People come to small groups with varying degrees of cognitive complexity. Some are able to really dig deep, analyze, contribute, but some just are not. Not that they're not willing, they're just not as cognitively complex. So it's important to make accounts for people who may or may not be as cognitively complex as you. Next, self-monitoring. This is the extent to which someone pays attention to and controls themselves in social situations. If you remember, in Chapter 4, we talked about mindfulness and diversity, being mindful of who you are and how you and other people factor into the communication situation. This is a riff off of the same concept. This is where you pay attention and you control yourself in those atmospheres. Some people are better at self-monitoring than others. but all of us should aspire to be better because self-monitoring is really a mechanism of respect. It shows validation for and acknowledgement of other people in groups. Next is a concept called rhetorical sensitivity, which is speaking and phrasing statements in such a way that the feelings and beliefs of the listener are considered. And it's phrasing statements in order not to offend others or triggering emotional overreactions. Basically, we just call this being careful. Thinking about what you say before you say it. I don't like the term sensitivity because it tends to get belittled. Oh, it's just a bunch of sensitive social justice rhetoric. No, it's just called not being a jerk. So be nice. Think about what you're saying. Think about how it influences so much more than just you and the role that you play in a situation. And then also give a degree of latitude for people who may not be as rhetorically sensitive as you. I have a faculty colleague in the College of Liberal Arts and Social Sciences who, to be quite frank with you, is a relatively nice person, but seems like quite a jerk. They are unable to control their communication. In many ways, I think that they can. They just choose not to. But when you sit down and talk to them, they're actually a fairly nice person. And I chalk this up to just a lack of a degree of rhetorical sensitivity. It's not that they can't, it's not that they have ill intent, it's just that they're not as cautious. But on an individual level, we should all strive to be just a little bit more careful with what we say. Next is a preference for procedural order. And this is a trait that some people have that's characterized by a need, or at the very least a desire to follow a clear, linear structure during problem solving and decision making. This isn't me at all. I don't really have a preference for procedural order. I allow ideas to come when they come, through any processes they come through. I don't care if it's linear, if it's neat, if it's hierarchical, that doesn't matter to me. But I work with a lot of people in higher ed who are this way, who have to have everything straight by the line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, done. That's not me. But that may be you, and it may be members of your group. So give them some latitude, and perhaps if you're one of those people that's driven by excessive detail, give some latitude for people who aren't. Now, all of these traits and these attitudes and these behaviors we've described are really part of our personalities. And personality is what we bring to the table. It's who we are. There are a variety of different personality characteristics. And as we will talk about in class, there are some typologies of personality that are important to consider. Probably the biggest one is the Myers-Briggs Type Indicator. And that's a personality measure, based on the work of Jung. And it just categorizes people based on how they relate to the world around them. You've likely taken a Myers-Briggs or some riff on a Myers-Briggs, but you can see kind of on this graph here, and I encourage you to pause the video and take time to look through to see the distribution of the categories of the Myers-Briggs and how they line up with famous people that we all know and love, or like, I guess, for the most part. They all look, I think they're all okay people. Look and see how their personality characteristics line up, and then how they line up to yours. But the Myers-Briggs typology is really focused on several different dimensions. First, there's the extroversion-introversion dimension. And that's concerned with whether one's focus is the external world, which is extroversion, or their internal world. There's the sensing, intuiting dimension. And this dimension is concerned with the type of information individuals use. Sensors prefer facts and figures, and intuitors prefer to dream about the possibilities. That's definitely me. I'm a strong intuitor. Thinking, feeling. This is a dimension concerned with how individuals prefer to make decisions. Thinkers are objective, and they like facts, hard facts. Feelers are subjective, and they're a little bit more emotion-based. And then there's the perceiving and judging dimension, which is the dimension concerned with how people organize the world. So perceivers are spontaneous and flexible and fun, and judgers are a little bit more decisive, and they prefer structure. So let's talk a little bit more about roles. Oops, not those roles. Let's talk about these roles. Roles are patterns of behavior displayed by and expected of a member of a small group. They're a composite of a group members' frequently performed behavioral functions. So a role is something that's often assigned to us, or something we assume based on traits, attitudes, characteristics, and our personality. And there are many different roles that we can fill. First, there are formal roles. These are specific established positions in a group where there are expectations for fulfilling that group. Then there are also informal roles. Those are unique roles that result from a member's patterns of behavior. And those behaviors are really related to functions. And we know that there are several different types of functions. There are task functions. The thinker we see on this page, he's a task-oriented member. And he's really focused on just accomplishing the goals of the group. What is there to do? What do I need to finish in terms of this project? What's the function of this member? Should I be doing this? They're very, very focused on the task at hand. But many people in a group are there to, yes, accomplish a task, but also focus on the interpersonal needs of the group. And we call this the maintenance function. And these are relationship-oriented member behaviors that reduce tensions, help the group not fight and kill each other. They increase solidarity, and they facilitate teamwork. And then the one that we don't want to have is this one. And that's the self-centered function. This is an action of a small group member which is motivated by personal needs and pretty much personal needs alone. That individual wants to satisfy their needs no matter the expense that it poses to the group. As you think critically about you as a member, you and your small group, and the role that you play, make sure this isn't you. Don't be self-centered. Whether you're focused on the task or the interpersonal nature of your group, hopefully you're focused on both. Focus ultimately on expanding your territory, giving something instead of taking something, expanding your horizons. Because what this is doing is it's setting you up for more professional success. This has been a brief lecture over chapter number 5. As always, please remember to complete your study guide in a timely fashion and submit well before the due date. If you have any questions, I'm always here to help. It's been great talking about members and their roles, and I look forward to putting this information into practice when we convene in class later. Have a great day. Until next time. Bye-bye.